Hello and welcome to Math 76, section 4.7, solving equations with fractions. Okay, we're going to think back all the way back to chapter 2 and chapter 3. We did some of this where we solved. If I had 3x equals 6 and I want to get x all by itself, I do the opposite of multiplication. I do division, so I divide both sides by 3. My 3's cancel over here, and I get x is equal to 6 divided by 3, which is 2. X equals 2. So I did the opposite of multiplication. So now I'm looking at a problem where I'm being multiplied by a fraction. So I've got 1/3 a equals 10. Now I want to do the opposite of 1/3. 1/3 is really divided by 3. So I'm going to do the opposite of 1/3, or I'm going to multiply by 3 over 1. 3 times 1, and I'm going to do the same thing to both sides. And my 3's cancel, and my 1's cancel over here. And on my left side of the equation, 10 is really 10 over 1. So I get 10 times 3, 30 over 1, which equals 30. So now I have a all by itself, and I get a equals 30. Okay, let's try this again, another one, okay? I got a was 30. Okay, so I have 7 equals 1/5 y. And I want to get y all by itself. Okay, so I wrote it out all with the fractions there. I'm going to do it the way that we more typically do it. I'm going to multiply both sides by 5 on both sides of my equation. And then I had originally times 7. I'm multiplying 7 times 1/5 y. And here now I get some canceling. I have on my right side my fifths cancel. I'm left with 1y. 5 times 7 is 35 equals y. And I have a 1 there. Really, there's a 1. I don't need to write the 1. We don't usually write 1y. But if you would like to write it and then drop it the next line, that's fine. 35 equals y. Okay, it's easy when the numerator is 1. Now let's talk about it when the numerator is something different. Okay, I've got negative 20 equals 5, 6, b. I'm going to write with capital B. Small b always looks like a 6 for me. Okay, I want to get b all by itself. So I want to do the opposite of multiplying by 5, 6. So I know that when I think about opposites or reciprocal, I'm going to multiply each side by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 5, 6b. So the reciprocal is 6/5. I'm going to multiply both sides by 6/5. 6/5. And over my right side, I have some canceling. My 6's cancel and my 5's cancel. So I'm just left with b on the right side of the equation. And then over here, I have 6/5 times negative 20. Okay, and I'm going to put that in. I have 6/5 times negative 20 over 1 equals b. I've got negative times a positive, so I have negative 120 over 5 times 1, 5 equals b. And I can put that in my calculator. Negative 250 divided, sorry, negative 120 divided by 5 gives me b equals negative negative 24. And that is my final answer. And we'll work on checking these in class on tomorrow or whenever the next time we have classes. Okay, I've got another one. We're going to do the same thing. That negative 4/9 w equals 16. So I want to get W all by itself. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of -4/9 is -9/4. And I make sure I have my negative on both sides. On my left side of my equation, I've got canceling. Now I gotta be careful. I've got a negative and a negative. I've got two nerds hanging out together. It's a positive good time, so they're gonna cancel out. My 9's cancel, and I'm left with just W over here, which is great because that's what I was hoping for. And then it equals 9 times 16 divided by 4. 9 times 16. I'm going to use my calculator. My brain's not functioning. Let's see. What is 9 times 16? $144 divided by 4. And I make sure I have my negative sign, which I had before. Then 144 divided by 4 gives me 36. And again, I make sure I have my negative sign. So my answer is -36. That's a 6, not a B. 6. -36. Okay, what about a multi-part equation? Okay, now remember before when we did one and it was like 2x minus 1 equals 7. I add 1 to both sides first because I have to get x all by itself. These cancel. And I'm left with 2x equals 7 plus 8. 7 plus 1 equals 8. Divide both sides by 2. And I get x equals 8 over 2 equals 4. Okay, so first I get my variable all by itself. I isolate my variable, and then I divide by the coefficient. Okay, and I divided by the coefficient because it's being multiplied by the coefficient. So we're going to do the same type of thing, except instead of dividing by our coefficient, we're going to multiply by the inverse. Okay, so I've got 1/6 n plus 7 equals 9. So first thing I want to do is I want to get my variable all by itself. So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. And my 7's cancel over here. So I'm left with 1/6 n equals 9 minus 7, 2. And now I want to get n all by itself. So I've got to multiply by the opposite of 1/6. So I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by the opposite. So I'm going to flip 1/6 and I get 6 over 1 and 6 over 1. Okay, on my left side of the equation, all this beautiful canceling. Look how amazing that looks. And I get n equals 6 over 1 times 2, which is equal to, however you like to look at it, 6 times 2 over 1, which is 12 over 1 equals 12. N equals 12. And you can also put in your calculator if you don't want to do all the steps. I show a lot of steps, but don't feel like you have to do all of those. N equals 12. Okay, so first thing we do is we isolate the variable. Then we get rid of the coefficient by multiplying by the opposite. Okay, I got number 6. 3 plus 1/4 p equals 5. I want to get p all by itself. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Got this beautiful canceling again. My 3's cancel. We get 1/4 p equals 5 minus 3, 2. Okay, I got 1/4 p equals 2. I want to get p all by itself. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the inverse of 1/4. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4 over 1. And 4 over 1 is just 4. So I could just write this. First, I'm going to do my canceling. These cancel. 4 and 4 cancel. 1 and 1 cancel. I'm left with just p equals 4 over 1 is just 4. So I could say 4 times 2. 4 times 2 is 8. P equals 8. Awesome. Okay. Okay, now we have one. Before we've just been doing ones where it's like 1/4, 1/3, 1/6. We're doing one where the fraction isn't 1 in the numerator. We got this. I believe in us. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate the variable. I want to get r all by itself on one side of the equation. So I'm going to do the opposite of +5. I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. My 5s have this great canceling. And I get -10 minus 5, a more bigger negative number, which gives me -15, equals 5/3 r. And now I want to get r all by itself, okay? So I'm going to rewrite this over here. I've got -15 equals 5/3 r. So I want to multiply by the inverse of 5/3. What is the inverse of 5/3? 3/5. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3/5. 3/5. Okay. And I have my amazing canceling, which I love. And I'm left with on the right side of the equation, just r. And then on my left side of the equation, I've got 3/5 times -15 over 1. Okay, I can use a calculator, or I can do it in my mind. 3 times -15 gives me -45, and this is a 5. And 5 times 1 is 5, equals r. 45 divided by 5. This gives me 45 divided by 5 is -9, equals r. I also know it's divisible by 5 because it ends in a 5, and I also know it's divisible by 9 because if I add up the digits, they equal 9. That's my little hint. Okay, got number 8. I want to get x all by itself again. What am I going to do? I got 3/8 x minus 9 equals 0. What do I need to do to both sides to get x all by itself? I'm going to add 9 to both sides. Even though there's 0 over there, it's a number. And I get this canceling. And I get 3/8 x equals 9. Okay, great. And now I want to get x all by itself. I'm going to rewrite over here. 3/8 x equals 9. I want to get x all by itself, so I'm going to multiply by the inverse of 3/8. So I'm going to flip it. I'm going to multiply both sides by 8/3. Okay, my canceling over here. Amazing. I'm left with x equals 8/3 times 9. I can use my calculator, or I can use my brain. I have 8 times 9 is 72/3. And I think that's 24. X equals 24. Okay. And again, we will practice plugging in and verifying in class, but this is how we solve. Okay. This one says simplify first, then solve. Okay, I'm going to combine any like terms that I see. Do I have any like terms? Yes, I've got a 7 and a 2. I want to combine first. They're on the left side of the equation. 7 minus 2 is 5. So I have 5 equals 1/5 y minus 4. And now I want to get y all by itself. So I've got this -4. I want to undo that. I'm going to do the opposite of -4. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. I have my canceling. And I get 5 plus 4 is 9 equals 1/5 y. And now I want to get y all by itself. I want to multiply by the inverse of 1/5. The inverse of 1/5 is 5/1. Let me see if I can cram that in. 5/1. 5/1. I do my canceling. My 5s cancel. My 1s cancel. And over on the left side here, I'm going to write over here. I have 5/1 times 9 equals y. Okay, So really that's the same as 5 times 9 over 1 equals y. 5 times 9 is 45 over 1, still gives me 45. And if you don't like doing the math, guess what? You can use a calculator. That's okay too. 45 equals y. Okay, and ooh, this one's a tricky one. Okay, we are going to get x all by itself first. So the first thing we're going to do is subtract 1/2 from both sides. And I get 3x equals 3/4 minus 1/2. Ooh, we got to combine. I got to get like terms. I mean, not like terms. I got to get least common denominator. What is the least common denominator between 2 and 4? It's 4. So I need to make 1/2 into fourths. 1/2 into fourths. I multiply 2 times 2 to get to 4. So I do that to the numerator and denominator. 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. So I'm going to plug that back in. This becomes 2/4. And I have 3x equals 3/4. Okay. Now here we go. Okay, I have 3x equals 3/4 minus 2/4. Okay, so I've got 3x equals 3/4 minus 2/4. My denominator is 4 and my numerator is 3 minus 2, which gives me 1. Okay, now here's where it gets tricky. I want to get rid of that 3, and normally I just divide by 3, but we're going to do it a little bit tricky this time, okay? I am going to multiply by 1/3, which is the opposite inverse of 3. So I'm going to multiply by 1/3. Over here on the right, 1/3 times 3 gives me just x. And on the left, I got x, and on the right, I have 1/3 times 1/4. We're so good at multiplying fractions. I multiply my numerators. 1 times 1 is 1. My denominator is 3 times 4, 12. Voila. Complicated. So many skills that we are practicing all in one problem. Okay. Marcus figures out his drive time in hours using 2 plus distance over 60. If he was on the road for 5 hours, how many hours did he drive? Okay, we need to set up an equation. So it said, if he was on the road for 5 hours, how many miles did he drive? Okay, this gives us how many, the equation for hours using this formula. 2 plus distance, I'll use d for distance, over 60 equals the number of hours he drove, and it tells me the hours he drove is 5. Now I have an equation I can solve. First thing I want to do is I want to get d, our variable, all by itself. So I am going to subtract 2 from both sides. I get this beautiful canceling. And I get d over 60 equals 5 minus 2, which is 3. D divided by 60 equals 3. I want to get d all by itself, and currently I'm being divided by 60. What do I need to do? I'm going to multiply both equations by 60. And I get amazing canceling over here. 60 cancels. And I get d equals 60 times 3, which is 180. And I'm not done yet because it's a word problem, and I'm solving for d, which it tells me is distance in, and then I go back and check my units, distance in miles. 180 miles. Amazing. Okay. Another word problem, last problem of the day. Nail penny size. A nail's length in inches is penny size divided by 4 plus 1/2. A finishing nail is 1.5 inches long. What is its penny size? Okay, let's set this up. I have its inches is equal to this equation, and it's going to be equal to 1.5. So I've got, I'm going to say penny size. I'm going to call it just X. I don't want to use P or S. Those are both bad variables. They can look like numbers. P, I would say X over 4 plus 1/2 equals 1.5. Okay, first things first is I want to get X all by itself. So I'm going to subtract 1/2 from both sides. Okay, I got canceling over here on the left. On the right, it looks a little confusing, so let me rewrite this out. X over 4 equals 1.5 minus 1/2. Okay, this is a good one. This is one I can break up. I've got X over 4 equals 1 plus 1/2 minus 1/2. Well, the great thing is here, I've got plus 1/2 minus 1/2. Those cancel. And I get X over 4 equals 1. And I'm going to go down here because I'm running out of the room. And also the black is bothering me. I'll switch to blue. X over 4 equals 1. I want to get X all by itself. It's currently being divided by 4. I want to do the opposite of that. I am going to multiply both sides by 4. I get my canceling on the left. 4's cancel. And I get X equals 4 times 1, which equals 4. And 4 is the penny size. That's our unit. Penny size equals 4. Okay, a lot of tough stuff. I believe in us. We're going to keep practicing in class, and we'll work on checking our answers as well in class. Have a great day. End meeting. Stop recording.